Well, Ryan, well, thank you for coming on the red carpet round table.
Thank you for reaching out and for having me.
You're very welcome. I know a lot of people who may be following you and a lot of audience and a lot of fans are curious what got you into being in this entertainment industry?
Um, yeah, I guess like back in high school, I kind of got into acting. And that's when it started. And from there, I was not like a school person.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
graduated high school. I went to a junior college, community college, whatever you want to call it, for like a few years, and then dropped out. And in none of that time did I ever take a film class. It was mostly theater that I would do. And a lot of acting and then writing and kind of moving behind the scenes to directing. The college that I went to, Moore College, which is it's a junior college, it's a community college, but it had a pretty good theater program that allowed you to like write plays and put them on stage and everything. So I did that and then dropped out and didn't do anything for a while. This is like mid 2000s. And I kind of just started with an old college friend of mine. His name is Nick Vonch. If you see this, I'm mentioning you. I've talked to him every now and then through social media, but he was like one of the few people from college that I kept in touch with. And like mid 2000s, he says, "Let's make a movie." I was like, "Oh, yeah, that sounds good. How hard could it be?" And we had this like 8 millimeter camera, and we would just make these silly movies that we like, we would take them seriously, but they weren't very good. We didn't have any equipment. We didn't have actors. We would just get our friends to be in them, but we would try to make these movies. And, we did that for a few years, and then he ended up moving away, and I liked it so much I continued doing it. Um, and again, with no formal training, just a big theater background, but I was working a job and living with my wife, who I was dating at the time, and we had to pay rent, so I had to go do my job. And so the thought process behind it was I can't be at a playhouse every night
Mm-hmm.
rehearsing and doing
Mm-hmm.
a play, but film I can do here and there. I can kind of work on it. That was the thought process at the time. And so, yeah, I just did these little kind of silly, not so good movies. And then with the rise of social media at the time, you kind of reconnect with people. I'm sure you've had the same experience. People that you haven't talked to in forever will show up on social media. And that was like the rise of Facebook at that time. And I was
Mm-hmm.
getting reintroduced to all of these old college friends and even some high school friends who were still kind of doing acting, pursuing it, kind of doing their thing. And they saw what I was doing, which was really nothing that great, but oh, Ryan's like making films. That's cool. And we started to kind of collaborate, and some people I knew had some gear, and we got a proper camera, well, kind of a proper camera. And just little by little, the projects started getting better, you know, to the point where we would like rent out this theater in Simi Valley, where I'm from, um, that is closed now, but at the time it was a discount theater. Like they would show movies that had been out for a handful of months, and you'd only pay $3 to go see a movie. So to rent out an auditorium was pretty cheap. And so we would, when we made the film, we would rent out the theater for a pretty cheap price, and we would show our movies, and they weren't very good. But our friends and family would come, and they would tell me they liked them. I still to this day don't believe that they actually liked them because they weren't good. We didn't know how to record audio. I didn't really know what editing was. Like I was that inexperienced that I just thought what came out of the camera was the movie. Instead, we have to like, edit it together. And so just little by little, they got better until just again through mostly social media and kind of meeting some people along the way, they just got better until,
Right.
they started to be pretty good, I guess.
That's amazing background. You're totally right. You meet people through social media. And
Yes. I still cast films through social media, which sounds juvenile, I know, but it's the world we live in now. Like
hmm
it's
hmm
used for pleasure, but also as a business when you think
Right.
about it. Mhm.
And that's the one thing I love about social media is that you have the connection.
Yeah.
You are so surprised of how many actors there is in other states, and
Yes.
and that's how I think we, the community, as the entertainment industry, we support each other, but also that's how you kind of find work, or if there's other
Yeah.
project going on,
Yeah.
or for example, like yourself, who is a writer or and producer, you may be asking for extra people, and they may somehow see it and reach out to you and say, "I'd like to be on set. Can I audition for it?" And that's the one thing I love about the social media, because it grows the connections.
Yeah, I did it for a while, and now mostly use Instagram. And it was like 2 years ago I started to kind of expand that. Like I had an account for many years, but I never used it. I never did anything on it. I was like Facebook, which I know is like old school now. But there's been a few projects now where I've just written messages and I wasn't sure how that would go at first, but everybody responded and some of them want to talk right away. Okay, can we have a talk? Can I make sure you're real? Can I make sure you're legit? So, I mean, I just kind of send the initial message and then I let the actor or the actress take it from there, or even the director,
Hmm. Hmm.
hiring directors take it. Like whatever you're comfortable with. We can do email, we can do a phone call, we can meet, whatever you want to do. Because I know that this, at least to me, seems like a very unconventional way to get work. It's not Actors Access or one of these programs online that
Right.
are renowned for getting people work.
That's true. 100%. I want to dig into your upcoming project that you may be producing, if you're allowed to talk about it.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's
And
all independent.
maybe some of your past projects that you have done.
Yeah, well, to start like when it got serious, because I kind of told you a brief background of like the stuff that was not good but kept getting better. But like when it really became like, okay, this is like a part-time career now, was I did a film called Dinner for Six, and this was released and kind of did some festivals. It was only in a
Hmm.
few. We shot it in 2018. We released it in 2019. Um, and that was produced, well, I produced it, but I didn't finance it. A colleague of mine who I had known for a few years, Juana Mayotte is his name. Um, and I think I don't talk to him much anymore, but I think he's still like doing film out there. And he was from Burma over in the Middle East, Asia. And we had kind of known each other through some people. And we went to dinner one night and he wanted to do a film. He wanted to be an actor. I didn't know that. I had like been in touch with him and he had helped out on a few projects that I was doing kind of as things were starting to turn and now like we're doing work that's okay. And he saw it and I didn't know he wanted to be an actor. And so he said, if you can give me a part, like I will finance a movie for you. What scripts do you have? And I gave him this script. It was called Dinner for Six, and it was a pretty simple script. It was all one location about six friends who get together for dinner and some drama happens and past secrets come up and it's kind of funny, kind of dramatic, but pretty simplistic to film. And he wanted one of the roles, and I said, "Great, let's do it." And we made this film. It was a SAG film too. He wanted to go SAG with it. I had never done that before, and we shot that. And I felt at the time I was in over my head. I had never directed
Hmm.
SAG actors. I'd only done my films that I had financed myself. And here's this guy who's giving money to this project, and we did it, and it turned out good for what it was. It's a micro budget feature, but it was good. And we did some festivals in 2019, and then things kind of started shutting down for COVID. And he ended up putting it on Amazon. You can watch it on Amazon. I think that's the only platform it's on because he didn't go through a distributor. He did it himself, like independently. So I believe that's the only platform that it's on. But doing that film kind of caught the eye of some other colleagues, again, who I kind of known. We talked about working together. We had, kind of had some meetings and stuff like that. But when that film was, I say released, but on the festival circuit for the brief time that it was, um, there's people who wanted to work with me who had like niches with like small time distribution stuff, which I had never really been able to do. And they seen that I had produced this movie that was shot in 6 days. We shot it in 6 days in one location. And a lot of my scripts, not all of them, but a lot of them are like that, where it's very condensed and just all the actions kind of taking place in one spot. So that led to a few other things, which then led to me kind of getting to meet distributors directly and work with them and kind of give them stuff. And so yeah, like there wasn't a lot of films being made when COVID
Mm-hmm.
happened. Like in 2020, I'm sure you remember, like it was just kind of dead. Um, but yeah, we went and made another, again, kind of single location. So we were able to abide by COVID guidelines with like a minimal cast and crew, skeleton crew. And um, we did a film called Lovers in a Dangerous Time, which I wrote and produced, and I was still kind of acting at the time. And we did that one, and we got it sold to an airline company, which was really cool, and made some revenue on it. And didn't really do much else with that one because like there were no festivals going on at the time. There wasn't really a
Right,
whole lot
right.
else you could do with it. So that's like a film I've done that doesn't get talked about often, just because the time it was
Mm-hmm.
ready to be shown,
You
like there
know,
wasn't.
COVID was a
Yeah.
difficult time for everybody.
Yes. Yeah.
It
It,
was,
it,
and
it really was.
you're not the only one because you know a lot of people is you know directors, producers, writers, actors, and actresses out there. Um, Whoever who was in the entertainment industry, it was just very difficult because
Mhm.
the the world was shutting down, and you know you couldn't have so many people on set, and you know,
Right.
and people had to get tested
Right.
and be quarantined for 15 days or how many days, and then
Mhm.
you know if you leave the set, you have to be quarantined again. So it was all not you know it was a little rough for the entertainment industry. So I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, it definitely was a weird time. I mean, it was cool to be working. You know, we had a good time making the film. I held like a private screening in my backyard, like that was sort of our premiere, and like no one was allowed to bring guests. Like it was just like the cast and crew who worked on the movie. And so we did that. And like I said, now we got a streaming deal. It's on several platforms. Lovers in a
Mm-hmm.
Dangerous Time. You can go and watch it. Um, but there wasn't that like let's go through a festival run, let's do all these things with it at the time. But we were able to make a little revenue off of it, so that was good, and that allowed me anyway to kind of keep working. And really, it was then in 2021, which was still heavy COVID. Like COVID was still kind of a thing in 2021. I I did two films that year. One was a noir, which admittedly did not go so well. That's like would have to do a whole other episode of your podcast to talk about that one. A little bit of a troubleshoot, but it now is, I think, getting a streaming deal like all these years later. And there's a whole story behind that one and just the problems we had with it. We were trying to shoot a period piece on like a micro budget, so it was very difficult, but it came out pretty good in the end. Um, but I had been waiting to do this romantic comedy that I had written that we wanted to do in 2020. But then when COVID happened, we needed a lot of locations that I had booked. Like I had them ready to go, and then we
Mm-hmm.
were able
Mm-hmm.
to do it. Yeah. And so as 2021 went along, we're doing this noir movie and, kind of taking our time with it. And things kind of started to go back to normal, if you remember it, like not normal, normal, but places started opening up and it seemed like it was possible to do this romance movie. And so I greenlit it for like right at the end of the year. We shot it in November. But unfortunately, the team that I had originally wanted to do it with, like they had other things going on now. So I mean, a year and a half had gone by. Like things change. Um, but my lead actress, Jennifer Ball, who I'm sure will watch this, Jen, love you. Um, she had been working on all these other projects with me while we were waiting to do this romance movie. Something Good Coming is the title. She was still on board. At that point, she wanted to produce it with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah, great. And she had recommended this director, Eddie Viegel, who ended up directing the movie. And so we hired him. And yeah, we shot that in November 2021. And
Wow. And
um,
where can people see that film?
yeah, so this is streaming. We ended up getting a streaming deal. We did some festivals. We did very well. I think like the proudest moment for me was we got into Houston World Fest with that, and we ended up winning a Remy Award for it, which was really, really cool. And we did find a distribution deal through Twin Engines Global that just started at the end of last year. It's Amazon, it's Tubi, possibly Roku. Don't hold me to that. Fandango at Home, and maybe some other ones. You can look it up, and it's out there. And I believe it's free now. For a few months there, you had to pay, but I think that was mostly last year, so you can
Right.
watch that. Um, but no, that was like a film that I'd been wanting to do for a long
Mm-hmm.
time, and
Mm-hmm.
I had stepped away from acting, so I was the lead producer on it, and I wrote the screenplay. Jen Ball produced it with me. She's the lead in it, and won some acting awards. It's a really great performance. She had a lot of time to practice because she was waiting so long to do that movie, and that was really cool. And just that was a fun movie, one that's near and dear to me. And yeah, the following year, while that was doing its festival run, I wrote and produced this little thriller that my old buddy Joe Cook directed. I did film with Joe years ago. All those bad movies that I was telling
Mm-hmm.
you about was with Joe, and he was like my partner in crime and went through the trenches all those years with me and kind of got away from it, retired, if you know, retired from doing it. And I got him to come back and direct this thriller that I wrote and produced called An Unkept Secret. And we shot that right at the end of 2022. Um, and it's like I don't want to say standard because that sounds bad. It's not standard, but it's a home invasion thriller about this couple who witness a crime and decide whether or not they want to call the police because someone may be after them. There may have been a witness who was there who saw them, and the villain comes to the house, and it's a fun thriller that's not too complicated. And we shot that, and we got a distribution deal on that through the distribution company Monarch Films.
Monarch. Okay.
Monarch distributed that. It's right now it's only on Tubi. You can watch it on Tubi. I think there's like a version. I think you can also watch it on their YouTube channel, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
But if you want like the big screen TV experience, you could watch that on Tubi. And that was a fun one. And yeah, that we were able to give to the airlines as well through the airline sales and made a little bit of money. Um, and I decided to go, for me anyway, decided to go big in 2023 and wrote and produced two films that year um, that are kind of just now finishing their festival run. Um, One was the Serenade Charade, which was a script that I had been working on for many, many years. Um, and just was one that I really, really wanted to do. And I finally had the financing in 2023 to do it and do this other film. But the Serenade Charade, I hired the very brilliant and talented Diane Nirenberg. So I want to give a shout out to her because she did brilliant with directing this. And it was a very female-driven script too. It was two female leads, and it's this cat and mouse game involving a movie producer who hires a composer to compose a new film, and they have a dinner meeting, but not everything is as it seems. And I don't want to say too much more because there's a lot to that film that is better if you just watch it. And
Right.
we're
We
just
don't
now,
want you to spoil the film.
yeah, no, I don't want to spoil the film. No, just now seeking out distribution for it. We've kind of started writing some emails because we're mostly done with our festival run, and it's been a lot of fun. Um, and another shout out to my co-producer on that, Heidi Diatley, who I've known for many years, and our leads, Keely Bright and Diana Garley. I can't say enough about their performances in the movie. It's just two powerhouse female lead performances that was again overseen by Diane Nirenberg as the director. So that was a lot of fun. And while I was shooting that, I was also producing this road trip movie that I wrote and produced, and actually collaborated with Jennifer Ball from from Something Good Coming. Loved the script so much she wanted to rewrite it, which I let her do, and she had great ideas,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
so the script became. She helped co-produce it and is the lead in it, and it's a road trip movie. It's I think Thelma and Louise is the best example I can give you. It's a lot like that where they come into this money. I don't want to say how, watch the movie, and they're on the run with a lot of cash and they're being chased. I don't want to say by who. And it's just a fun road trip movie that has a lot of action, a lot of comedy, a lot of drama. And we have done a few festivals, and I guess are kind of still in the middle of our festival run with that one. But we shot that over a period of time, like late 2023. And yeah, that was a busy time. And last year, um, I stepped back into directing and wrote and directed and co-produced with my good buddy Brian Mack, who was
Hmm.
my co-producer on it, a modern day noir piece called A Private Investigation, um, which is, as I said, a modern day noir about these two high school, I was about to say high school students, these two high school alumni who come back to their hometown after 20 years, having graduated about 20 years ago, and they attempt to solve an unsolved mystery from 20 years ago about one of their classmates who went missing during senior year. And some things happen that lead them to believe that they might be able to figure out, did this girl get murdered? Did she disappear? Was she kidnapped? What happened to this girl 20 years
Hmm.
ago during
Hmm.
senior year? And they kind of go on this odyssey, and that was a lot of fun to shoot. And a shout out to my leads, Francisco de Coon and Caitlin Grace, who were the stars of that, and their co-lead, Natalie Paulison, who plays like a primary supporting role in it. That was a lot of fun to direct. And I also wanted to, I didn't talk about the director of Tales California, Christine Macklin, who was our great director on that one, another very female-driven script. And so we brought her on, and I've known her for many years, and she did a wonderful job in that. And so I guess that was a really long answer to my past films, but yeah, that's like the last 5 years right there.
Well, that's amazing. You've done a lot, and
Thanks.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Um, I want to dig into your challenges you've been facing. What are some challenges you can give out to the
Yeah.
audience that you are facing as yourself as a producer and as a writer?
Yeah, well, financing is always a thing, right? I mean, I talk about low budgets, but you still do, you need some money to make a movie, obviously, even if you're going to do low budgets, like you do have to consider financing. And I was just having this conversation recently about, I don't know if my way of getting to where I am was good or not. Like, I didn't take film school. I learned by doing, I learned by failing over and over and over again. I don't know if that's better than like if you go the film school route or not, because that's one of the reasons I stepped back from directing. I started meeting directors who had been through film school and they know what to do. They know the whole thing, right? Whereas I know in my head what looks good, but like, knowing the lingo and just how the camera works and everything is obviously a big plus. I feel like the downside is that you don't know how to think outside the box if you go the traditional route of taking classes because they tell you, I feel like they tell you how to make a Hollywood movie, right? Which you can't do it unless you have this amount of money. And that's not necessarily true a lot of the time. Sometimes it depends on what the script is, of course,
Hmm.
Um, I remember as I was doing all these films at one point, there was a guy who was helping on a film and he had a script that he wanted me to look at. And I said, great, yeah, I'll take a look at it. And he's, well, maybe we could produce it. Yeah, we'll see. And he gives it to me. And I read about the first 3 pages and it was good. Don't get me wrong, it was very, very good. But it took place in a skyscraper on like the 70th floor with the SWAT team coming in through the windows. And I was, no, I can't produce this. Like, I wouldn't have the money. You would have to go raise money, which I've never really done crowdfunding. I mean, a lot of people do, and it works, but I've never really explored that. Um, so financing is a thing. Financing versus like the correct script. I think it's easier when you're also the writer, which I generally am. I've never really produced anybody else's material. That's something I'd like to do. Um, so when I'm writing a script, I'm already thinking like, okay, how can I write this in such a way that I know I at
Mm-hmm.
least have a shot of getting this location or making this happen? I don't want to write something where a building blows up because I know I can't do that. I don't have the
Right,
money to
right.
do something like that. So, you know, um, it is a challenge. I mean, again, if you're the producer and you're the one who's going to be running the show and then you're writing the screenplay, you can kind of set yourself up. So that would be like you talk about advice to give. Like if you're looking to produce your own script, like if you're going to go out and seek funding, then that's a different story. Maybe you can get, an independent studio behind you. So, I mean, there's really no right or wrong way to do this. But to do it the way I do it, yeah, like write what you can get your hands on, when it comes time to produce the thing and start shooting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good
Uh,
advice
yeah.
because, it's a lot of people have questions as if they should go to school or should they not go to school. And, you gave a good answer because sometimes it's worth it and sometimes it's not.
I think that's the thing about any kind of art is you hear stories from like big actors, famous directors that they are high school dropouts, and
Yeah,
then
and
other
it's so
people,
surprising, real quick,
right,
it's that some of these famous actors, they never went to college.
never went to
They
college and
and
filmmakers
it's
too.
it's to me, it's really powerful
Yeah,
for directors and actors and writers who have never gone to college because they're showing the young generations, hey, if you have a passion, go for it.
right. You're exactly right. And again, not to knock on people who do go to film school, because that works too. I think that's the thing about any kind of art, really. Music, writing, painting, whatever you're doing, there really is no right or wrong way to do things. When you think about it. There's no correct way to make a film or to tell the story. If you read film history, most of the great directors have gotten where they are by breaking the rules. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I don't think, I mean, you want the criticism, right? You give your script to somebody. Of course, you want the criticism and you want the notes because you want to know what other people think. But I also think you have to be careful there. You want to give it to the right people. Obviously, you don't want to go and give it to your mother
Yes.
because your mother's going to say she loves it, right? But I also don't think you want to give it to, the types of people who are out there in the film world who are just going to look at it and, know, like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, because there is no right way to write a script, I think. And you do have to be careful about who you show your work to because you want to be careful that you don't give it to someone who is just going to criticize it no matter what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading that one script that I was talking with the skyscraper. I did end up reading the whole thing, because I wanted to like read it and I thought it was a really good script. And I told him like, dude, I would go try to like pitch this to a studio. Like, I can't help you with this. This is way too much for me. But you want to give it to people who are going to be encouraging, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Um, you know, when I watch a film, and I'm not talking like big films, but like going to these indie festivals and watching other people's work, like I always just try to focus on the positive. Maybe it's not the greatest film, but like there's always something good in it that like you can say, hey, this was really good, even if maybe you thought the whole thing wasn't really that great. And I know what that's like because my early stuff is garbage. It will never be seen again, unless by my close friends, and maybe we can drink while we watch it and just bask in the awfulness of it. But getting there the way that like I did, I very careful like not to just criticize, like don't bring anybody down in this. If
Right.
you're putting yourself out there with a piece of art, maybe you're going to fail, but you're probably going to fail publicly, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
people are going to go see
Mm-hmm.
the movie and maybe it's not that good. And oh, it's a, bad enough when you fail and no one's watching, but when it's
Right.
public, it's, oh, it's very,
Go for it though.
you went for it, right? I mean, you went for it. So,
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
mhm,
Thank you. Um, you know, it is true. You go for it and it's a passion, and that's the one thing about the entertainment industry. I agree with you because it's you know, people, a lot of folks, I say a lot of folks because it's true, because going to acting school, they say it's worth it. And then some will say, well, I'm doing great. I don't need to do it.
mhm,
But excuse me, like you said, it's a good idea because I mean, it's there's a plus and not negative about it, and I
mhm.
think there's you can learn from both sides. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on the person. Like, who are you? What works for you?
Mm-hmm.
I've known people and have just seen things like on social media from like acting schools who, people will do a post and tag them, and it doesn't look like, how is that helping you do a performance? But then Jennifer Ball, on the other hand, when we were doing Something Good Coming, she like hired this coach out of her old acting school, which was I don't know if I'm going to say that. I think it was the Arizona Actors Academy, but don't hold me to that. You'd have to ask her. But I know that she was like studying with this teacher who taught her great things on how to do this performance, and she like brought it to the screen, and it worked. So again, there's no right or wrong way, I think, to do anything.
Right.
Just
100%.
yeah, but
That's
I do think that there's those people out there in this industry that will, you know, kind of bring you down, like, because they're so
mm-hmm.
opinionated. Oh, you're not doing it right. There's no right or wrong way to do this.
You just said it
And
right there.
so, yeah. Hmm.
You just said it. There's no right or wrong.
I don't
100%.
think
I
so.
totally
Yeah.
agree with you on that part. Um, My next one is for you. A lot of people kind of want to get to know you a little bit. What do you do for fun when you're not producing or writing?
I am, my whole family, we're an avid hockey family. Um, so we love watching hockey and going to games. And I have two kids who are both growing up very sporty, very, I don't want to say jock-like, but they love watching sports. So I had just always been a hockey fan. They're into all the sports. So I mean, we do a lot of sports in the house. But hockey is kind of the primary one. Um, and yeah, there's not. This maybe sounds bad, but it's not a bad thing. There's not a lot of time for everything else. Like being a dad is a full-time job. Me and my wife, we're raising kids, and that takes a lot of time and patience. But film is also not, my full-time job. I work for Kroger, which in this area is mostly Ralph's. So I actually do have a 9 to 5. And while the movie stuff is now starting to bring in money, I would still say in some ways, like, it is my hobby. You know what I mean? Like, I enjoy doing it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I do
Mm-hmm.
spend a lot of time doing that. Yeah.
Now I want to dig into your hockey. So you said you guys are hockey fans.
Yeah.
Um, what's your favorite hockey team?
Well, we're, in Ventura County here, which my wife and I have lived our whole lives, which is like 30 minutes from LA. So we're Kings fans. Um,
Same
And
here.
I also have always rooted for the Dallas Stars, which people, oh, are you from Texas? No, in fact, I've never been. But I always just admired Mike Modano, who was
Mm-hmm.
just a great
Mm-hmm.
American hockey player who played for them for years. When I was little, I don't know, you pick teams and you just stick with them. So those are my teams. My wife's family is from Winnipeg, so she's kind of a Jets fan. Um, yeah, so we have our teams, and we do friendly, battles when they play each other. But it's all in good fun. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm also a Los Angeles Kings fan.
really, that's cool.
Yes, that's the
That's
only
really cool.
hockey team.
They're in a bit of a slump right now, so they gotta step it up a little bit right now. Like it's getting like close to playoff time. I think they're gonna make the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, I'm hoping they'll get better.
I think yeah, they're definitely gonna get in. I think, but like they gotta like get on a hot streak to go. You always want that going in the playoffs. So yeah.
Right, 100%. Got to cheer them
Mhm.
on. Go, go, go.
Yes.
Um, you know, since you're a parent. when I ask a lot of actors and actresses and directors this question, what age do you believe is appropriate for kids to be in the entertainment industry? Because I know a lot of parents,
Yeah,
if they're all not, you see them already in the entertainment industry and Disney and all that stuff, right?
right,
But starting now, like for example, you in your situation, if your child, age 6, 7, I don't know, 5, what do you believe, um, is your advice for all the parents out there? And again, it's advice. It's not like telling them.
right.
But what is
Yeah,
what is your recommendation? Do you think it's a good idea putting them in the entertainment industry? Because the reason I'm asking you this is because as a director, I mean not, I mean producer, correct me, is they have to get used to auditions and being told no and all this
right.
stuff and the
Yeah.
peer pressure. So what is your opinion and what's your advice?
That's a tough one. I never really thought about it because I don't think my kids are going to go that route. My oldest is going to be 15 this year. My youngest is going to be 12. And they've like cameoed and stuff in the background. Like the thing I directed last year, Private Investigation, my son wanted to do a speaking part, so he played a waiter who came over. He had a few lines, but he won't even watch the clip now. He like doesn't want to watch it back. So I don't think this is something I'm going to have to worry about because I don't see them going that route. But that's hard because I mean, you hear all the stories. This is mostly old Hollywood stories about these kids who got hooked on drugs and just all the things, and their lives kind of came crashing down. I don't really know if that happens anymore. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But I have worked on a few projects now with a wonderful actress named Colleen Bowling, and she has done kind of small supporting parts in like three of my projects now. And I want to think all of her kids do acting because her daughter, Brooke, who is a fantastic actress, she's 9, was in both my film, The Serenade Charade, and Tales California. And even in Tales California, she's got a pretty pivotal part.
Wow.
And that was interesting because I had never really worked with a child actor, but we like worked it into the script. And I remember I actually had to sub in directing. Christine could not make it on that day, so I was directing on the day. Um, and I remember having that thought like, oh, working with a kid. Now, I mean, it wasn't like we were doing any sort of content that was like, R rated or anything. It wasn't anything like that. But then, yeah, I remember getting to set and I didn't really think much of it. I gave her the same
Mm-hmm.
direction I would give an
Mm-hmm.
adult, but I don't know if this really answers the question. I guess it kind of depends. I'd have to say it depends on the parent.
That's,
If it were my
and
kids and, because I've been doing this since before they were born,
mm-hmm.
I don't know, because I mean, if the kid wants to follow their dream, and they're into it,
Let
like, how
them
do you
do
say
it.
no to that, right? Like,
Right. I
uh,
totally understand where you're coming from. And, in
right,
first, in I'm not a parent, but so I can't say much. But if
yeah.
if my child wanted to be an actor or an actress, if that was a dream, I say go for it.
You
And I don't want
probably
to,
have to, I think.
I
I mean,
don't
I
want
don't,
to, I don't want to hold them back
right.
because I feel like that it doesn't seem fair, but I also see what you're talking about as well. It's kind of like that little boundary, like, ooh, should
Yeah.
I do this? Should I, but again, I agree with you because you're like, go chase your dreams. You live once.
Yeah, you would almost have to, I would think. Now, I mean, probably, and again, I can't really speak to this because I don't think my kids, they've like acted and stuff that I've shot because they wanted to. Um, but obviously, I would imagine as the parent, you're kind of serving as their agent in a sense, right? I mean, maybe you get them an agent, but you're still there, you're heavily involved. And you're obviously going to be approving of the scripts if there's, anything violent, anything sexual, like,
Right. I totally
I guess you
understand.
just deal with that in the moment if, a project like that happens to come your way.
Right.
Um,
Well, that's the
I,
reason I asked you that because, a lot of parents who may be, watching the interviews, and their daughters or son who wants to get into the entertainment industry, they always I like to bring that question up to every guest I have because who are parents because I want them to hear from each parent because
Yeah.
to understand and get every parent's views and ideas and what they think and what you gave is a good idea. I think it's a perfect idea. Follow your dreams. If that's if and if that's what they want to do, you that don't stop them, right? Because
Yeah. I
and
mean, my son is, my youngest likes watching sports. He doesn't, not so much into playing them, but like my oldest, he's very athletic and he's at hockey practice right now for this high school prep team that,
right.
he's going to try out for. And hockey's an expensive sport, but like, I mean, you can't tell him no, like he's got talent. I mean, will he make it into the NHL? Well, I never say never, I guess.
Yes,
So
hockey is expensive. By the way, I was
hockey is very
surprised.
expensive, yes.
I thought football was expensive, right? But
Mm,
when you look into how much hockey is too, you're like,
mm.
wow. And
Yeah,
it's like, you're kind of like, well, hopefully they make it to NHL or hopefully they
right.
can,
Do something, yeah. No, it is. And I think, the gear is expensive, but gear is expensive for any sport. Hockey, there is a lot of gear you have to wear, but a lot of it has to just do with the ice time, like keeping an ice rink running with all of that,
Yes,
like
yes, sir.
that's why the cost to get in is so enormous, is because
Hmm.
they then have to pay the rink for the ice time, and that it doesn't come cheap. So it does make sense, um, but it also doesn't help that like you have to wear all this protective gear because like baseball gear, football gear, that's expensive too. It's just as expensive as hockey gear, but you don't need as much of it to play
Right.
those sports. So overall, like hockey, yeah, far and away the most expensive sport you'll get your kid into. Mhm.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Mhm.
Well, Ryan, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, yeah, no problem.
I appreciate it. And, I appreciate you following us on Instagram. Um,
Yeah,
all the,
that was great. No, I'll continue to follow you, and I guess let me know when this airs.
yes, it will be, I will air as soon as possible because, I love, um, everybody in this entertainment industry. I love the social media. Be honest, because a lot of people, they think that this is so a competition we're against each other. And I say, no, it's not a competition at all. This is a support. It's a family
Yeah, no, you're
support.
right.
And, a lot of people are surprised with Instagram, with social media, that you follow each other, you get the support and you get the love and you get the kindness and you get to congratulate each other and you get to celebrate with each other, even though, everybody is living on a different state. It just, to me, is so inspiring.
That is a good thing about social media in general, but I guess especially in this like artistic business is that, yeah, you can cheer someone on who's in New York, or Atlanta has like a big film division, and really anywhere, and just kind of follow their success, which is cool because you never know, you might be working with them. I've flown actors out before. It's not out of the question, even on a small budget. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's true, Ryan. Well,
Mhm.
thank you again for coming on.
Yeah,
And
no problem.
I
Thanks for
look
having me.
I look forward to
And
having you back on again sometime.
yeah, that'd be great.
Well, you have a good night and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, talk to you soon. Thank
All
you.
right,
Bye.
bye-bye.